All right. Well, I'm here with Marc Janser with Peterson Hall, and we're just going to do an interview around mainly business development. And if you would, do me a favor and just take a couple minutes and describe for me your background leading up to your current role with the firm.
Okay. I graduated from the University of Illinois College of Law in 1978. The founder of Peterson and Hall was a man named Pierre Peterson. He was also from the College of Law at the University of Illinois and was active in recruiting attorneys from that law school and in funding the law school as well later on. And so I started here in actually June 5th, 1978. I started working in our litigation department. I was an associate in our litigation department for a period of 6 years, at which time I became a partner starting in 1984. And starting in 1986, I was one of the partners elected here to the firm management committee. At the time, we didn't have a managing partner. We had a management committee, which included Pierre Peterson, the founder, and then 4 of the equity partners that were elected to management. I served on the management committee from 1986 until we decided to go with a more streamlined management structure in 2003. And at that time, I moved over and became a member of the compensation committee. I was a member of the compensation committee up to and including 2010 when I became the managing partner of the firm. The managing partner of the firm and 2 other individuals are on our compensation committee. That's a long way around to say that since 1986, I've been directly involved in the management of the law firm, as well as a practicing attorney and with all the duties that requires.
Okay. And what drew you to being a lawyer? What was the impetus behind wanting to get into this field?
I really wanted to be a lawyer for probably as long as I can remember. Even as a child, I liked arguing. And I was pretty good at it. And I liked doing it even when I didn't care that much about the outcome. It was more that the process intrigued me. Even now with my girlfriend, at one point we were arguing and she said something, and I said, no, what you should have said. And I was correcting her on to make it better. And she said, wait a minute, are you really telling me that you weren't arguing your side because you thought you were right? I said, no, I was just doing it for the process. And she said, then I'm done arguing. That defeats the purpose.
How to get out of an argument real quick.
Yeah, well, but you know, and there's the old joke, the Winston Churchill line about arguing with the lawyers like mud wrestling with a pig. You just end up dirty with mud all over you and you realize the pig's enjoying himself.
Right.
And the truth is that my entire life I've enjoyed the things that seem to be part of the legal process. I enjoyed argument, I enjoyed reading, I enjoyed constructing arguments, and I enjoy the intellectual challenge of it.
Okay. Let me ask you, was there a defining moment that you have or a story that you have that where you realized, you enjoyed the law and that you were good at the law, but that you wanted to become a rainmaker, where you felt developing business was something that you were exceptional at?
I don't think there was a watershed moment. What happened was, I mentioned that Pierre Peterson, the founder of this firm, was an early mentor to me. And I was very fortunate to start with the law firm at a time when associates, now associates are expected to come in and work a lot of hours, and they are costly to hire, so you really don't waste their time very much. It wasn't a waste, but I spent the first 2 to 5 years of my practice basically walking around with Pierre and seeing what he did. And that was my education into the importance of developing business. Pierre, his business cards didn't even say he was a lawyer because he didn't want to limit himself to people in that respect. He was a businessman, he was a lawyer, he was a philanthropist, and if you didn't see what he was, his card wasn't the method he was going to tell you. He really felt that I saw him provide advice to people on a very broad level, and for them to then covet that advice. And I learned early on in the practice of law that the reason he had the successful practice and the reason he had the big office wasn't because he was the best lawyer at reading a brief or writing a brief or reading a case or preparing a deal. It was because he had something a lot more intangible called judgment that all the clients wanted. And when they didn't, he went out there and convinced them that they did. And I saw that, and when people ask me what kind of lawyer I wanted to be, I used to point at Pierre.
Was there things that you saw him doing to drive his own personal practice that you remember or that inspired you, or something that he was doing maybe differently than other attorneys you were watching back then?
Well, he used to tell me that he really didn't know anybody that he didn't represent. And though that was a bit of an overstatement, it also, just the fact that he could say that was extraordinary to me. And what I saw him do was to constantly be marketing, not selling in the sense of saying to people, here, I want you to hire me, but he was constantly putting himself in a position where the opportunity to present himself as a successful lawyer that other people wanted to hire was done by him constantly. He never did anything that didn't offer him the opportunity to meet potential clients, and he didn't ever go, when he was in those opportunities, out of marketing mode. And one of the very important things is you have to market based on things that are true. You have to market based on facts that you believe. I think that's always been true, but in today's marketplace, even more so. The clients that we seek to have at the law firm of Peterson Howe are sophisticated clients. They know they have multiple opportunities to hire other law firms. They know that the old days where a law firm would have a client relationship and it would last forever, those days are gone. And they're constantly being approached by other people that are offering them legal services, and by good lawyers that are offering them legal services. So naturally, in order to convince clients that you're the best positioned firm for them or the best positioned attorney for them, you have to believe that. And if you don't, then you're not telling your own client the truth. And that may work on a very temporary basis, but that is not a good long-term strategy. It's a death spiral.
Right. What about so the way I see things, there's three levels of attorneys that are out there right now. There's the rainmakers that have sort of already made it. There's the worker bees that are just hammering out work, and they're just not interested in business development. Then there's that middle segment that now more than ever is coming to the realization that, power and influence and ability to, dictate revenue and income is all from, doing great work, but also having a book, right? So this is really meant for that middle sector. But is there something that you feel like you did personally to help to build your book of business that you could share with our audience?
Yeah, I do. And you're right, that middle group is squeezed because in the last decade or so, certainly at the present time, the amount of legal services across the American landscape has flattened, and yet the number of lawyers increases. And so what happens is the people in that middle group, they're past the point where they're associates that just need to work hard. They've learned how to be lawyers. Mm-hmm. If they don't have somebody feeding them business, then they eventually run out of work to do.
Yeah, they become obsolete.
They become obsolete because they're made into junior level partners, and all the work that used to go to them when they were talented associates is going to the new crop of associates, and they're in the middle group, and unless they can make themselves indispensable either by generating business or doing work that no one else can do, they are dispensable.
Right.
That's a difficult thing. Here's what, in every instance, everybody in the practice of law had mentors, and hopefully I'm a mentor to some, but I had a mentor that was extraordinary, and I keep mentioning him, and I adapted the things I saw him do to my own personality and to my own approach. One of the things that is extremely important is to provide your client services that are beyond just basic legal services.
Okay. So what about take it a different direction. What about the fifth-year associate, fourth-year associate doesn't have a client base? That's their problem. They need to find some new people. What type of advice are you giving them typically to tell them to get out there and be active, and what blocking and tackling, not high level strategies?
And that's something that I think we do especially well here.
Okay.
And the reason is that they're the bigger firms than ours have always wanted their associates to bill a lot of time, and they work them so hard that they really don't have much time to do anything else. And we've told all of our associates that when they come in here, we're looking to develop them into well-rounded attorneys. And as a result of that, we not only require them to do associate marketing, but we have an associate marketing group that is led by a younger partner who's had some success. We change over who leads it, but we have a younger partner that's had some success that meets with the associates and deals with each of them individually to assist them in trying to come up with a marketing plan. And, it's trial and error. There isn't any guaranteed success, but there are a couple of principles that we find to be very important in that respect. First of all, it's very difficult for somebody 30 years old to go out to get a 50-year-old CEO of the company to give them legal work. I mean, that's just the demographics there are against you. They're stacked against you.
Sure.
On the other hand, time is on your side. The 30-year-old people that you know and the contacts that you make when you're 30 are going to be 50 years old, and they're going to grow into positions, and you can't wait till they're 50 years old to develop a relationship with them. You have to start at the earlier age, and in that regard, there's no guarantee that if you go out and you join organizations, get on boards, join country clubs, become head of a theater group, or anything else of that regard, that you are going to ever generate any business because of that. But if you go home and you sit and you watch TV, there's a guarantee that you won't. And so you have to make the effort, and that's the speech we make to them. And we incent them to do this by having these associate marketing groups where we try to help them do it, and also by taking it into account. At the partner level, we're judged by success. If we generate clients, the client revenue is part of what we look at for compensation. At the associate level, we're expecting them to develop into attorneys, well-rounded attorneys, and we do compensate on effort. We expect them to improve every year as lawyers. We look at their reviews to see how well they're doing, but we also get that associate marketing director to write a report and tell us who was it that made the effort, who was it that created a plan, who was it that followed through on their plan. Mm-hmm. That's the hard part for the associates, that it's easy for them to sit down and think, okay, here's all the things I'm going to do. But then they actually have to go and do those things. And in that regard, I think it's important to note that the way you choose to market is somewhat, it must be individually styled. And that may not be a decision you irrevocably make at the age of 30, but there's no point doing it just like somebody else did because they found it successful.
Right.
You got to market it the way you.
And it's funny because I know a lot of attorneys that have joined boards and have gotten involved in things thinking that it was going to be some great networking, but they, A, don't enjoy the groups and the meetings, and B, they haven't really figured out how to network with the people that are there. Because there are some high-level professionals there, but they don't have the language or the steps or whatever it is to start the conversation about
you can say,
business.
well, that's great for you, Janser. You like to play golf, and that's what you do even if it wasn't a matter of marketing. And I suppose there's truth to that. But there are other, I also get on the board at the country club. There are parts of that are more public service oriented than they are pure enjoyment. That joining the board, meeting the people, following up with the people, and at times when it's appropriate, and it's more and more appropriate to be aggressive all the time, is to say to people, okay, what is your business? Where do you use lawyers? Are you satisfied with them? And is there anything that we have that you have interest in that I could provide you some display about? And so, I have a classic line, and that is, I say to them, I say, oh yeah, those guys are great lawyers. And then I say, if ever they're conflicted, or if there's something they don't want, or if they ever drop the ball, hey, give me a call. Yeah. 9 times out of 10, maybe 99 out of 100, that doesn't result in anything. But sometimes it does. And you have to be willing. That's the other thing. You have to be willing to strike out. You don't hit home runs without swinging at pitches. And and they come sometimes in the most unlikely ways, in ways that you didn't ever anticipate there was going to be an opportunity to actually get legal work. And they come, there's a long lead time. Everybody in law knows this. There's a long lead time on sales.
Yeah, but the constant mindset and action and activity, you'll get some stuff now, but you're setting yourself up for that 2 and 3 and 4 year out. Right?
I have a lot of manufacturing clients that are out in the western suburbs. I have a big company out there. I had a really successful trial for another company out there, and there are a number of others out there who know these people. That's one other thing. I don't know if this was in response to one of your questions, but as part of that concierge service, and as part of the willingness I have to take any one of my clients and introduce them anywhere else that I can help them and get them in for, doing that also gives me the right to ask them to do it as well. I had a client here that I've been representing for 30 years. I had nothing but unqualified success. But they're a big private company, and the guys keep things private. I at first wasn't very... I was a little reluctant to call the guy up. I wouldn't be today at all, because here's what happened. I called him up and said, would you make a recommendation? I'm trying to get business in a place. Can I use you? And he said, how long have you been representing us? I said, 30 years. He said, have we ever lost? I said, we have not. He said, you know what? I would be pleased. I would be really, really happy. I'd enjoy the process of recommending him. And I realized that asking him to do that wasn't at all pushy, and it wasn't putting him out at all. That he wanted to do that. And so from that point forward, I do that. And if everybody says, no, I'm uncomfortable doing that, that's okay too. But you can always ask. But the completion of anything, whether it's a business deal that you've done, whether it's an estate plan, whether it's the finishing of a lawsuit, is a perfect opportunity to say to the client, were you satisfied? How'd we do? Was there something we could have done better? This doesn't have to be exclusively for marketing purposes. It can be for quality assurance, too. I think that's good to do, even if you're not going to use that for marketing. Even if you know that they can't help you with other people. It's good to do a post-mortem on the services you provide and say, how do we do?
Yeah, that's great. Well, listen, Marc, I think you've given me a lot of great information. I'm excited to share this with other attorneys that, are looking to build a book of business. And, much luck and success to you. And thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.